Sir, welcome back to Forum Daily, Mr. Franco Terrazzano.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
So let's start with a quick overview of this referendum. What is it about and why is it a hot topic in Alberta?
Well, Albertans are tired of being treated like the cash cow for the rest of Canada. Since equalization was first started in 1957, equalization has cost Alberta taxpayers about $67 billion. This year alone, equalization will cost an Alberta family of four about $2,600. Now, what has all that money bought for Albertans? Well, hostility from the federal government towards its economic driver.
All right, sir, just about 4 minutes here. But before we move forward, can you briefly explain equalization to our viewers and why provinces have to pay equalization payments?
Yeah, equalization is a federal program and it's sold to Canadians as a way so that provincial governments can provide reasonably similar level of programs across Canada. Now, that sounds nice in theory, but in practice, it forces provincial taxpayers like those in Alberta to directly subsidize politicians in other provinces like Quebec who seem intent on roadblocking their development.
All right, sir. So I'm going to jump to an article in the Toronto Sun. You indicate in it that the discussion on equalization is urgently needed. So why is that?
Yeah, this discussion is also needed all across Canada. We have to remember that this is a federal program and the federal government is $1 trillion in debt. And we've seen these equalization costs soaring. When it was first implemented in 1957, it cost about $1.3 billion. This year, it will cost about $21 billion. So a 1,500% increase. Now, with these massive additional costs, is it really making Canada better off? I would argue no. Not only does it harm taxpayers in provinces like Alberta, but it also harms taxpayers in provinces that receive equalization because it lets their politicians put in bad policies and rely more on tax dollars from other provinces and less on good, sound economic policies.
All right, sir. And you also say that the Prairies have been dealing with economic hardships for the past 6 years. So that's even before the pandemic. Why is that?
That's correct. And, all Canadians have been struggling for the last 18 months or so with COVID-19, but Albertans have been struggling for the last 6+ years. And when many Alberta families may have been looking for a hand up, the federal government gave Alberta a boot to the neck, right? The feds have rejected the Northern Gateway pipeline. They moved the goalposts on the Energy East pipeline. They imposed a No More Pipelines law, a discriminatory tanker ban on the West Coast. The feds have imposed a carbon tax. They're getting ready for a second carbon tax. So to many Albertans who feel like they have over-contributed to the rest of Canada through their tax dollars, these policies certainly feel unfair.
So with the pandemic in play now, how does Alberta's economy compare to that of other provinces following these issues that you just mentioned?
Well, I think when we start talking about this economic recovery post-pandemic, what we have to remember is that even after the pandemic, these roadblocks from the federal government are still going to be there for Alberta and also just our natural resource sector in Canada more broadly. So if we want to get the economy firing on all cylinders again post-pandemic, we need to see these roadblocks addressed. And really, that's why it's so important to have this national conversation.
All right, Mr. Terrazzano, just about a minute left here, but the CTF has done some analysis on equalization as it relates to Alberta in particular. So what were some of the key findings here?
Yeah, so since its inception in 1957, equalization has cost Alberta taxpayers about $67 billion. And the last penny that Albertans have received from equalization was all the way back in 1965. This year, equalization will cost an Alberta family of four about $2,600. But we have to remember, equalization is only one of the federal programs that redistributes money away from Alberta taxpayers. If you look at all the money the federal government taxes and spends, well, then Albertans have paid about $600 billion more to Ottawa, and by extension, the other provinces, than they've received back in federal spending. And they still have politicians in these other provinces that want to roadblock their development, and that's just unfair.